My name is Rebecca Marcotte, and this is my ghost story. So my story happened many years ago when I was in college down in Southern Utah on the campus of Southern Utah University. And I was there getting my theater degree. And so this is a theater ghost story. And a theater ghost is actually a thing. Because there is no community more superstitious than the theater world. In a theater, we actually leave a light on in a darkened theater, and that light is referred to as the ghost. And only the best theaters have ghosts, so it's actually a badge of honor. So my story happened Halloween. I think this was 1984, and it was a couple of nights before Halloween. And the theater school, our club, every year we would host a haunted house spook alley, and we had permission to run the spook alley in the replica of the Globe Theater that's on the campus. So the Globe Theater was this big round wooden open air theater that Shakespeare's plays were performed in Stratford in England. And so they built a replica of it there for their Shakespeare festival. And that place was spooky in broad daylight. But the night I had my first encounter with this ghost, I was there at 1:30 in the morning with a good friend of mine, and we were prepping for this spook alley. And because it's an outdoor theater, it's actually too small to have dressing rooms. So underneath this theater, there's this tunnel that runs under this large courtyard and into the main building that has a great big auditorium theater. That's where all the dressing rooms are. Well, we were setting it up for this spook alley. And what we would do in this tunnel, and I think the tunnel, I'm gonna say it's between 20 and 30 yards long. So my friend and I, and I'm not going to use his name because this story was not fun to him and he hated talking about it. And I was cutting cardboard to make this tunnel. It's a couple of days before Halloween, so we weren't operating the spook alley yet. And I was just working away. He was at the other end, at the end of the tunnel where there was actually an exit, and I was in kind of the dead end. And very suddenly I felt ill. I got wildly nauseous, and I just broke into a complete flop sweat. And I was really afraid that I was gonna just vomit immediately. And I kind of got to my feet and I looked down at the other end of the tunnel to my friend, and I was thinking I was going to have to kind of holler at him. But when I stood up and looked at him, he was already standing up and looking straight at me. And without saying anything, he just started gesturing to me to walk toward him. And so I did. I just started kind of walking and getting around all the crap that we had in the tunnel. And the closer I got to him, the more urgent his gesturing became. And I just noticed that he looked awful. He looked really terrified. And his eyes were just like golf balls. And when I finally got within arm's reach of him, he grabbed my wrist hard enough to genuinely hurt me, and just grabbed me and ran. He drugged me stumbling behind him all that whole way out, through the costume shop, up the stairs, out the lobby. He ran all the way to my apartment without saying a word to me. We get to my apartment building, And he takes me right to the door of my place. And he was just like, open the door, open the door. And I said, I can't. My backpack, my coat, my keys, everything is in the tunnel at the theater. And his stuff was there too. And I was trying again. What is wrong? Why are you so afraid? And he just looked at me and he said, there was a woman standing behind you in the tunnel, and she did not want you there. I am a skeptic. I really don't believe in anything. And I didn't have one moment of saying, come on, you're full of crap. I just knew it was true. So we walked about 5-6 blocks to his apartment where he lived with his girlfriend. And I slept on their couch. And the next morning was Friday. I remember this specifically because we had to go to class and we didn't have any of our stuff. He didn't have his car keys. His car was still there. So his girlfriend gets up and, we at 7 a.m. we go back to the building. And we get there and it was open. And we go in, but we very hesitantly go down the stairs into the basement to the costume shop to see if we can get back in the tunnel. And of course, like the costumer's not there. She teaches there too, and there was no way we could get in there. And we're coming back out, and we bumped into the head of the program at the time. And he was like, why are you here? It's 7 a.m. We don't have any classes. And we sort of carefully said, we left our stuff in the tunnel last night. And then he just stopped. And I remember he looked very specifically at my buddy and he was just like, what's going on? And my friend said, I saw a ghost in the tunnel last night. And the head of the program, his nickname was Mac. His name is Gary McIntyre. And Mac just sat there for a second and he said, yeah, I had a couple of run-ins with her, but only one time really scared me. So the two of us, and for me, flop sweat back. I'm nauseous again because to have someone corroborate something. And keep in mind, I had not seen her. I just felt her. So he takes us to his office and we sit down and he tells us the story of when he was a student and he was designing lights and setting lights for a show, and it was in the big auditorium theater on that campus. So there's two theaters, and he was up in the lighting booth, which is where the technicians run the lights and the sound and everything for plays. And he was up there one night working late, and he saw from the booth that there was someone standing on the stage. So he opened the window and he said, hey, the building's closed, can I help you? No response. But it was clearly a woman, he said. And so he turned up all the lights on the stage and there was no one there. So he thinks he's maybe seeing things, but he goes all the way down, and getting from a lighting booth down to the stage is usually quite a walk, lots of stairs. He gets down there, all the lights are on, nobody there. So he turns around, he glances up to the lighting booth, and this theater is big enough to have a balcony. And he said there was clearly someone sitting in the balcony. And again, he says, hello, hi, and it occurred to him, he had enough time to get down to the stage, so someone could have had enough time to get up to the balcony, but it seemed unlikely that, someone would play cat and mouse with him. that was the time that didn't worry him. He was working on another show shortly before he graduated, and he was same situation. He's up in the lighting booth, and he just sees but this time she's walking, moving back and forth on the stage. And he opened the window and said, "Hello, who's there?" And she stopped, and this time looked up. It was clear that she looked up at him. And that time he felt genuinely afraid. And then, flash forward to a couple of years later when I'm graduating, and it was literally my final night in that theater program. We had just closed a show, torn the set down, and I was sitting on the edge of the stage with a good friend of mine who wasn't graduating, and we were chatting and reminiscing, and only the ghost light is on the stage, and then a few lights kind of under the balconies, and we're sitting there talking, and I look up, and there's clearly a woman sitting in the audience, in the seating. And I just immediately went back to my first semester Halloween, wondering if this was the woman. And Mike got quiet, and I said, "Can you see her?" And he said, "Yes, and I would like to leave now." And I said, "Okay." And we had a choice. We could exit through the audience out through the lobby, or we could go back into the dark theater and try to get out one of the side doors. And we weren't feeling terrified or anything. It was not the same experience I had before. So we decided the safest way would be to walk up through the audience. So we just grabbed our backpacks, we jumped off the side of the stage and went over to the aisle kind of farthest away from her. And we just very purposefully walked up the aisle out to the lobby, but the whole way, the whole time we're walking up the aisle, she just watched us go. And then we hit the lobby and ran as fast as we could. But a few days later, he and I were carpooling to Montana for a summer gig. And we talked about it a lot in the car. And the only thing, we could not describe her. The only thing we could agree on was that it seemed like her hair was pulled back away from her face. That is the only thing we could define. Even though we looked at her, both of us, that whole long walk up the aisle. So that was all that we could get out of it. It was interesting to me that she showed up when I was brand new there and the day before I was leaving. For whatever reason, she's the bookends of my educational experience there. And I think, for me, the takeaway, I said I was a skeptic. I am hardwired for reason, logic, things I can see and touch. So the irony that I'm the person with this ghost story is so weird to me. And I just don't discount anything in the world, even though I'm still a horrible, kind of mean skeptic sometimes. I just don't think everything can be explained.